Attendance roster running around someplace here. All right, welcome to the August meeting of the TAC group. Good morning, sir. I'm John Hotchkiss, hailing from the large town of Middleton. I serve as chairman. To my immediate right,
Wally Dunham from Macro.
continuing around, if you introduce yourself, please.
Larry Brown, Milton.
Paul Lockwood, the Hampshire DES.
Steve Pesci, University of New Hampshire. Line, Federal Highway Commissioner.
Matt Sullivan, Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Gretchen Young, City of Rochester.
And Comeau, Wakefield.
Glenn Dixon, Hampshire DOT.
Cynthia Copeland, Strafford Regional. Marilyn Barton, Strafford Regional Planning.
Thank you. Welcome to be here, and thank you for coming. All right, item 2, please. Communications from Cynthia. Good morning.
So I just wanted a reminder, we're more than halfway through the summer intern season, and so today we're starting into the last 3 to 4 weeks of our major collection. We're right on track with our traffic counts and the culvert assessments with the new iPads and the new system that they're using is moving very rapidly, and we're making great progress, far more than we thought we would this summer. So it's been a very good, effective summer, and we've collected a lot of quality data. So we'll be working on that over the winter time. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. As time permits, there should be a sign-in sheet someplace else. Right here. If you can sign in, grab something to drink, eat. I might add, I talked with the culvert counters briefly. They're up to 3 snakes so far. All right, item 3, please. I'd like to introduce Glenn Davison from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. We would like to talk about the Transportation Alternatives Program update.
Great. Yeah. That's come up today and talk a little bit about the Transportation Alternative Program and kind of answer questions. My understanding is that Tom Jameson has come before and kind of presented this to you, and I think everyone's seen the call for new projects. So they do is try to answer any questions or kind of summarize what's going on here. And so what I did, as you've seen how it's before, is I kind of took Tom's PowerPoint and kind of boiled it down to just the real basics, to maybe try to hit the highlights of the TAP and basically hit on the critical dates, some of the milestones talked about within this project, and then maybe explain what the RPC role is in this whole process, and then answer any questions you might have on this program. Can everybody hear me? I know that machine back there is kind of loud, so I'll try to speak up a little bit. Before I start, is there any questions right up front that I can answer, or do you want me to just kind of go through this and just, you guys want to jump in? I will admit this is not, Tommy Jameson runs this program, and he's on vacation, so I'm kind of filling in. So if I don't know any answers, I'll definitely come back and get them to you. But let me just start this slideshow here, kind of run through it. Mouse over there. All right, this is kind of a general overview of the TAP program. Under the safety loop, we had several small programs, such as the Transportation Enhancement Program. We had the recreational trails, safe routes, scenic byway type programs. And under MAP 21, what they did is took all those little small programs and kind of put it into one program. And the idea was to provide a little more flexibility to the states to how they want to spend the money. So they didn't want to mandate as much. Kind of give states a little flexibility to spend the money where they think it needs to be spent. So that's kind of where this whole program came from, and why we're here today. And because of that, now we had to manage it a little bit different. Overall, the TAP program was about, we gave about $7.5 million. right off the top, based on the governor's approval, 2.5 million went over to the Department of basically DRED to support recreational trails. They manage that. So what came to DOT is about 5 million, and I think it's going to be about $5.5 million for this first round of projects. And the way it's split up is 50% of it goes to kind of a subset, sub-allocation goes to areas with population densities, 5,000, 5,000, 200,000, and greater than 200,000. And the other half of it's just flexible, we can spend anywhere in the state. So that's kind of the parameters we're working with within this funding.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So what is a population area? It doesn't say municipality and it doesn't say MPO or RPC, so
No.
is it an urbanized area?
I believe they're probably using the urbanized areas. Is it? Yeah. I do have a full slide presentation by Tom. It does have the areas outlined. I can do that presentation with you, so you can print the maps and you have those. Yeah.
So in our area, we'd be in the population of 5 to 200,000. I'm just asking to
Peak in here,
clarify.
yeah, I believe that would be true. Yeah. Again, the map will definitely show that. I can go back to that afterwards. But I believe so. And then we'll explain how that money gets divvied out. So now we have this, what DOT is, that this kind of spend this money, we kind of put some guidelines around it. Partly these guidelines came from, based on the LPA requirements. Because the LPA requirements are kind of a little more detailed now, I guess. There's more to it than in the past. And so we did, because of that, we're hearing from RPCs and towns that these small projects, the amount of oversight it takes, it's just not worth to have small projects out there. And we kind of agree. So we put a minimum, saying the minimum project coming in is about $200,000. So we're kind of looking for a project between $200,000, which is $160,000 federal money. But then we want to keep it under like $800,000, which is $640,000 Fed money. So we have more than one project now. We want to make sure we spread the money out a little bit. So we kind of put those two caps in there. Does that make sense to people? Yeah. Just because it said, small project like $60,000 to $80,000, the amount of oversight and overhead is just doesn't make it. And so we're trying to put some guidelines there. There is a minimum of a 20% match with these programs. Again, we have to make sure that we have some buy-in from the town to support. This kind of really shows dedication to the project and ownership. One thing new here is, actually it's the first time I saw it yesterday, is there's going to set project milestones. And basically, the milestone going to be when the work begins, the engineering study submission, the notice to proceed, and advertising. And the idea behind this is that we've got to keep these projects moving. We don't want the projects say, great, but now we're stalled for this reason or that reason. Just want to get this money out there, get these projects built. So if it gets too far delayed, we want the option to say, let's put it off, let's get that money out there, and let's get those projects going. So that's the reason for the milestones. What I'm trying to do is kind of follow this call for paper outline what's happening here. What's eligible here is kind of trying to limit what the focus is, and then you can see it's on-off road, trail facilities, it's infrastructure-related projects that improve safety, conversion of abandoned rail corridors to trails, and basically we're still supporting safe use of ski. So we look for projects that kind of meet these criteria. And I guess, again, another note that the rail program, the 2.5 million we talked about, that went to DRED, that is managed 100% by DRED, so, yeah.
I'll just ask a question about the, could you go back to that previous slide? So I understand this project is a series of other programs that have been condensed.
Yeah.
And I understand the focus on non-motorized for the overall. Durham UNH have a project that is very high on our list for downtown to put in a roundabout, ostensibly to manage traffic, but really to improve the pedestrian capacity of downtown because we have a lot of new development going in. I was going kind of off the enhancement program rules, where years ago we had proposed funding a roundabout under enhancements program, and Federal Highways came back and said, we understand that roundabouts improve pedestrian and bike safety, but we kind of categorically view them as vehicular traffic investments.
Yeah.
I wrote a couple weeks ago to Tom, and I guess, I don't know if he didn't see the email or what. Is that still the perspective? Would a roundabout in a downtown environment be suitable for application under this program, or is it still this kind of gray area that?
Yeah, I don't know enough what Tom's thinking about how to answer that question.
Yeah.
That's a great question with Tom. And I guess my recommendation would be is still get a letter of interest in there and let Tom sort it out. Then it's official in writing and he can respond to it that way. And
That's what I think we do.
yeah, because I think that you could probably get into a gray area. So that's a call based on Tom and maybe the advisory committee put together.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess my follow-up question to that, Glenn, is New Hampshire DOT using a tighter definition than FHWA and their regulations for this program?
We are. I believe these are more guidelines we're setting to kind of focus the projects. Because again, it's such a big area, it's just hard to, I think, start rating projects that big. That's my understanding. But yeah, this is more restricted.
I think, if I could, I think the idea from the department is more limited funds. If you look at the amount of money we got for TE and those other programs, it was a greater amount of money. So I think the thought was, let's focus these scarce dollars on the infrastructure projects so we can actually make a difference in terms of infrastructure that's out there for pedestrian bicyclists. Not focusing on that yet, because there are the other eligible activities that are there. We're still there from our perspective, but we understand what Hampshire DOT is trying to do.
Yeah, I guess I'd add, I think there's some confusion because if Post came in with a project to add sidewalks for folks to get to a bus stop, we were told that's a CMAQ project and not a TV project or app project. So these things get blurred, and so yet if a community came in and wanted that, that probably would be a TAP project. So there seems to be a little blurring there and needs to be, I guess, clarified from my perspective.
Yeah, and like I said, I think you're probably in a gray area, under the infrastructure-related project systems that provide safety for non-drivers, the sidewalks, something that may be out. Again, I guess because the deadline for getting letters in is August 6th, I would still put a letter in and let Tom, let these guys make that decision at that time. At least then you got your foot in the door.
Yeah, we won't put anything in. It was clear.
Oh, they came out and said that. All right.
It was pretty clearly stated previous to now, so we're not going to bother.
All right.
So, but you know, what that says up on the slide versus what was said verbally are two totally different things.
Yeah, and again, I'm not running programs. I can't really speak to Tom and Bill and the executive office what they were thinking at the time. Again, this is kind of a general statement.
Yeah.
I would really appreciate if you reconsider applying, because I think it may not be just you that has concerns like this, you know, proposing something and not being a municipality.
Yeah,
I mean, just to get the letter so that there's further definition would be really important, I think, for everybody in the state to understand how this works. Thank you.
I don't see anything that precludes the community from putting into more than one project. I think it's just a letter with that.
I don't see any issue with that. Not with any limitations.
That makes it easier for me
The
to
project we
compare
go on,
that.
we'll go through, fall on this area.
And I might put one in for sidewalks and coast.
Somewhere near a bus stop.
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Just Tom James, I called and asked Tom Jameson that very same question the other day about putting in multiple LOIs because we're not really sure which project we want to go for. He said, yeah, no problem, have separate letter of interest for each project, but he's like, when it comes to application time, he's like, probably just pick one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of, you know, multiple applications. Well, that's what you
So that's kind of the overall. So part of the tax application process.
So are you expecting to get a lot of phased projects? Because a lot of these projects now in the downtown areas are pretty complicated and multiple phases. I mean, 800,000 would go really quick.
Yeah.
So how do you expect to handle phased projects? I mean,
I'll
should
say
they?
that's a fantastic question. I don't know. I really don't know how. I think I've heard them talk about phase projects, but I don't know how to actually handle it. Because I think for me it gets a little tricky because when you start a project, it makes you want to finish it. You do the first phase of the project, and you don't finish it, then it's kind of dicey. You don't guarantee the second round. So I don't know. It's a great question.
Well, because I used to sit on the TE and the CMAC advisory committees, and when somebody came in and it was really clear it was a large project, and one applicant had phased it, and you could see the logic as to how they were putting it together, and someone else had a very large project with no phasing, and you were wondering how to do it. The phased projects actually show the ability to get the project done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess this is my personal thoughts that phase was started and completed, and there's a product we had. We wanted to expand upon that product. That might be useful, but start something that's only half done. It's not useful until the second phases come in. My thought here is money is kind of limited. As we were saying, that they took all those pieces of the other programs put together. Some much greater than we got from just the TA program. So the money has been used more flexible, which is great, but the overall amount is less. So, you know, I'll bring that back to Tom and Bill Watson and I'll see how they feel about those things, but I don't know. So at this point, I think, again, the trick is right up front, that letter of intent in there. Plan on phasing it, that letter, and figure it out.
Well, the reason why is the advice that we were receiving in the last round for TE was, if you need to phase this, let us know up front.
Yeah, that's great advice, especially now, especially trying to get the letters in. Because there's 3 steps of the process. The first step is getting a letter of interest, and that's due August 6th, which is next Wednesday. So not a lot of time. So without that letter being in, that kind of closes the door. So any graduate think you want to take another shot at it, you get officially reject it. Not a flip the project in writing, that's how we would do it. And if you got a phase project, get in there and be up front and be phased, and then these guys respond to it. Yeah. Again, this is a new process, new program, so I'm sure that Bill and Tom are learning as they go. Developing this program. Always room for improvement. And so the second step is, once you send the letter in, you'll be notified in a certain time frame. You had to attend a 2-hour refresher course on the LPA training. Refresher or the first time, but it's mandatory 2-hour session. Even if you had the LPA certified, you're still required to go through 2 hours. And so then once you get step 1 and step 2, you complete both of those, then you're eligible to put a application in. And the application is September 26th. So those deadlines you got to do behind. August 6th for the letter of interest, and save some time for informational meeting, for our first meeting. And the other deadline is September 26th to get the application. So once that all happens, then we go through the scoring process. This is the top slide. So I just highlighted things to do all the previous countries that I jumped out. So what they did is they developed a capital advisory committee that went through and developed the criteria how the DOT is going to rate these projects. And they went through and used our decision support tool, Decision Lens, and then kind of prioritize these criteria under importance and actually gave them weights. This process they're using is very similar to the process I think I demoed here with the Decision Lens for the project selection we did, the 10-year plan projects. We did the pairwise analysis. We said how does A compare to B, how does B compare to C, how does C compare to A, and based on voting of relative importance between them, we came up with a weighting criteria. We're going to use the exact same process here for developing the weights for these scoring criteria. So the TAC advisory committee did that. DOT is then going to select a separate scoring, what they call it, scoring committee, and that's going to be different than the advisory committee. And those people will then take those the projects that we see from the RPCs and then score them against the criteria. So two different groups. One group developed the criteria that another group's going to score. I don't believe that scoring committee has been selected yet. But I think we're going to try to get a pretty well-rounded representation. And once those are all ranked, scoring ranked, then we do is we'll kind of put the money in the formula and see where, because we'll go down the list and see what falls out. And then from there, that scoring rank goes to the front office or commissioner and we do approval. And which one of those projects. Any questions on that scoring? Yeah.
Well, it's actually the next step.
So they kind of show what they came up with. So I think it's outlined in the letter here. There's 6 different criteria. We're going to rate the multimodal connections. Gets a weight of 5%. Project connectivity 18. Safety 22. Potential for success got rated very high. It's 37. And social economic benefits is 12. And then the RPC NPO ranking gets a 6%. So as these projects are ranked first by the RPCs, and then we take that score and we'll actually weight that within the DOT's final rating. And some of these you can see they're broken out, like for safety, they look at improved safety conditions and stress analysis. So it's actually, there's 2 different scoring criteria under safety. Under potential for success, they break it down to 3 areas. It's feasibility, project readiness, and financial readiness. So those 3 pieces make up the potential for success. And then social economic benefits is the economic tourism benefit versus the development. So that's what the advisory committee came up with for criterias and how they want to rate. Again, all this criteria is put into the Decision Lens tool. They set down the clickers and then one kind of rate in against each other. And this is the final output.
Sorry, Glenn. Socioeconomic benefits.
Yep.
What are the 2 subcategories?
Economic/tourism benefits versus equality. I apologize, I don't have the definitions of this. I went into Decision Lens, the model, to see it, and I don't have permission to get into it. So I can't explain more than what I see right on the screen right now. But we can get the definitions behind those for you.
So I think it'd be really important in the training session that people who came to that understood what equity means, what are you looking for, and so that people have a larger understanding of what these words mean, because
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I apologize for not having that. I tried to get in there last night and look all this up, and I couldn't access the model that has all this information on it. So I apologize for that.
So what's your best guess on a timeline for committee selection and then programming into the tip and notice to proceed? And there's a lot of guesses, but
I do got some dates here. They'll come up in a second. So I don't know off the top of my head. I'll just wait till we get there if you don't mind. But yeah, they have some pretty like that. They have some deadlines. Is there any question on the criteria, how the weighting works?
we definitely need more information.
More information. Yeah.
Hi, Larry Brown. I've been out of the transportation group for a couple of years. Coming up to speed with the question. Does anything like this get over, or you what I would call a local boy for this? Does the money,
Yep.
800,000, to what area is it restricted?
The 800,000?
Yeah, statewide or within this catchment area?
I'm not sure your question.
Well, that goes back to how you divvied up the money.
Yep.
The 800,000 is for 5 to 200,000, right? And then there's 2.5 that's statewide. You go back to that slide.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's.
So,
Yeah, so the way decision lines work, which is I think really it's a nice feature for us. We put all the projects in decision lines, and then we score them against that criteria. And with each project, we can put funding pools. So we do, if the project is eligible within a population area, it gets put into the funding pool of $5,000 gets that funding pool. And it also gets the funding pool of the flexible one. So projects in the 5,000 to 200,000 gets that pot of money as cluster grants. And the ones that don't fall into this population areas just get the flex money. And then when decision line does it, ranks them, but it starts drawing off the top of the money, which is most eligible first, and just draws those monies down. So maybe the first project, for example, it's an area greater than 200,000, and it's 0.5 million. It would take that full money. The second project, if it's in the area of population, area with greater than 1,000, would take 0.1 million, and then maybe be funded with the rest of the flux. And then the next project would see what am I eligible for, draw down the available money, and go to the next category.
Right. Okay.
So it will figure that out for
Yeah,
us.
my honorable colleague has pointed me to the bottom left-hand corner of the slide.
Oh, okay.
That's good. That's good.
That's what you're looking for?
Yep.
All that for nothing.
No, it was good.
That was good. I'm sorry. All right, some additional things going on the scoring process is once we come down and we talk about, we rank the projects and we kind of run out of money, the idea is we're going to still go down 5 more projects and just put those on shelf. So if a couple of those milestones can't be met and we have to cancel a project, that we have something on deck ready to go. So we're not scrambling to figure out how we're spending money to get something falls off. I think going down 5 projects is pretty safe. So we've got 5 projects basically on deck, or what we call DOT on shelf. They should be ready to go. In the final list we presented to our commissioner, and he approves it. And we're talking some timelines here. Is the funding approval letters go out. So once we get through the application process and selected, the funding approval letter goes out January, February 2015. This year, the municipal agreements went out by March. March is spring. Project begins by April, and the project must be completed before 2018. So those are kind of the timelines of this process. I'm sorry.
So So my assumption would be the agreements would be sent out after town meetings in March. So if anything had to go to a vote.
In March, yeah, that's a great point. I'm hoping it'll go out soon, beginning of March, so that they're available.
Well, my thought being that in some instances, we wouldn't be able to sign until after the vote.
Yeah.
You have to get buy-in from the community.
If a letter came out from DOT in January, February, in a town meeting community, would that give you enough time to get it on the ballot?
Yeah, so I guess the idea would be January, February, is get the letter out so you know that that's coming up for the town meeting. The
I
idea
don't have
is
them
that,
memorized, but I know
Like warrant
times
articles have
get
to be-
warrant articles are so tough.
Right. Yeah, I think it's sometime in February they have to be finished.
yeah, my feeling is that these project applications you get into DOT by September 26th, I think it was, get those scored, get them in there, they're gonna be tight with that January, February deadline, that's my guess.
But it seems like on behalf of the town meeting communities that the January deadline is very important.
Yeah. So that's something we can definitely, I'll bring back, I'm sure Bill and those guys will. But I will bring back those guys, the emphasis that these letters need to go out
Do we have a
as
lot
soon
of
as
communities in
possible.
the state that have depended on the town meeting in March?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the question that we would put back to DOT, is there a way that you could adjust the timeline so that it could meet warrant article requirements for the town budget for the town meeting?
Yeah,
Or consider, at least,
if I had to guess, I'm just speaking out of school a little bit, but my gut feeling is that they're aware of these deadlines.
Because it's statewide.
It's statewide, and they have to score these. I mean, first, the RPC's got to score them, and you get them back, you got to score them, so there's a lot of things that have to happen, so.
There may be a way to write the article to, with the, provide with that.
Yeah.
Can't spend money, that's.
No, it's a good point, though, but I definitely will bring back the message that because the town meeting's in March, and the warrant article written and in there is, you need some time. I guess they're probably aware of this, but I can't speak for them, but I guess they're aware it's possible to get this started out.
Another question, too, because I may miss it. Is this a yearly process, or is this like every other year, or how often do we do this?
Depends on the next transportation.
I think the next is really, it's going to be, exactly, I
It could
think.
be a one-time process.
It could be a one-time process.
But that's what I'm thinking, is if you don't do it now, we may not have the opportunity.
Yeah, there's no
I'm kind of
guarantees.
newbie to all this, so I'm just, that's these
With
questions.
continuing resolutions, it's something we're going down that road again a little bit. They're doing the bail off now, maybe extend it till April, springtime is what I'm hearing. I got read between the emails.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In flux.
It's in flux, so it's a great question, but I don't think anyone has an answer at this point. So one of the big questions too is what's the role of the regional planning commissions in this whole process? That was Cynthia's question to me yesterday. Is what we see it as the RPCs. We work with the towns, develop a letter of interest, and that letter needs to include some basic things: description of project, route name, project limits, things like that. Possible resource impacts. It's good to know up front that you can get some cultural, natural resources. Eligibility for the TAP program. What area do you think this your application is eligible for? We would lay it back to the screens. And estimate amount of funding. What do you think is going to be possible? And I think there's some more guidelines maybe in the letter that came out in more detail. And then also the RPCs will, we think, will attend the informational meeting and become a resource for the applicants and help them fill out the applications.
So we're going to the 2-hour information.
I think you see that.
Is that mandatory too? Seems like it should be.
I would, I can change the word will to shall.
Yes.
That helps,
Yes.
you know? MUTC need that
It
covered.
should be fair.
Should be fair. They got us something, you got us something. That's worth your dues right there, I think. But basically, RPCs review and rank the projects, and the rankings will be submitted for scoring back to DOT. One question I have myself, I can't answer, is that ranking going to be based on the criteria set by the advisory committee, or is that up to the RPCs to rank them any way they want to? I don't know what the intent of how you're going to rank them is. My suggestion would be you probably rank them the same way the DOT scoring is. I know in the past what they did is a lot of RPCs and MPOs for their 10-year plan used the same criteria, but they put their own weights on it. Kind of went through a decision-like process internally, put their own weights, rank the projects, and then that ranking then goes into the DOT model. But right up front, you know what our percentages are. So up front, you probably know how your project will rank within the DOT scoring by doing that. So that'd be my recommendation. It's not a requirement, that's my recommendation.
I have another question.
Yep.
Does this strictly have to be for a municipal road, or can it be a state road in a municipality that goes through a municipality? Like the sidewalk project, does it have to be on strictly like a town road, a municipal road, or can it be on a state road?
I don't believe there's a restriction on that. I don't know.
Just as long as you're going to maintain it. Right?
Well, that's always
That's always the big caveat, right?
the big caveat.
Yeah. I don't see.
Did you just ask if it could be on a state road? I asked that same question to Tom Jameson the other day. Yes, it can be. They just, they'll allow it, won't participate in funding, and you have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at West High Street, which is a state road, and they said, yeah. At first I thought, no, they will. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good. There's my backup guy.
Asking the same question.
He's answered all kinds of questions.
I know.
The shoulder widening, he's giving me advice. I'm like,
Yeah, we gotta coordinate this before you guys got here. So that's pretty much what I have. And I think that what I try to do is kind of outline the letter call for projects. And basically these slides came right from Tom's presentation, so I think we got most of the information right. Between all the help in the room here, I think we answered, I hope we answered most of the questions. Is there any other questions out there that I can answer or try to answer?
I guess this is a question for Cynthia as much as you. Should we be prepared to write the letter of interest to DOT copying the planning commission, or do you know?
I'd love to get a copy.
Yeah, but what I was wondering is, should it go to the planning commission, copy to DOT? What's the matter?
I think as long as it gets there by August 6th, any way you want to get there, but go right to DOT. I strongly recommend getting a letter to Cynthia, because she can kind of proof it. She might be able to add to it and kind of.
But it's not expected that with the letter there be an accompanying support letter from the planning commission. That's at the application stage, yes, but
Yeah,
letter of interest we do indirect.
Yeah, that I did. Everything that's on the slides and information going out. I don't see that letter support is going from the RPCs. They're going to score them once they get the application process.
And yeah, if you want to send your draft letter to us, we'd be glad to look at it and make sure it's as strong as it possibly can be and well-defined. So a strong letter of intent needs to be clearly defined and meet all the parameters they're asking for. We'd be glad to do that for you all. What is that bump out thing? What is it?
Bike rack. Yeah, it's a bike path.
It's a bike path.
ADA rest area. If that's a slope, I think that's an ADA rest spot. You've got to have a rest spot every.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is what the 21st century aging in place is going to look like.
A lot of rest there.
So you can get out of the way when the bicyclist is coming.
There's a coach shelter going on.
Coach shelter.
Put rat from down for
All right, anything else? This presentation?
Great, thank you. I'll try to get back to Cynthia on some of these questions here and relay Tom some information, especially about the time schedule being tight for towns and more articles. We'll see how it goes. I hate to be rude, but I have another meeting in Concord that I need to get to. This mouse gets down to the bottom here. Oh.
Thank
All right,
very
thank
much.
you for putting up with me.
Really appreciate it.
All right, moving along, please. Item 4 on the agenda is look at the minutes from the June 6th meeting. I would remind you there was no meeting in July. Today's August 1st, so there's nothing in July. Any comments on the draft of the minutes? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to accept them as written. So moved. Second?
Second.
Discussion on the minutes? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
I have one more thing.
Go ahead, please.
So, could you ask when the next CMAC round is going to be? That's important for our scheduling.
All right, I can do that. Next
Thank you.
All set?
Yes, I
That's it? Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Matt Sullivan, Regional Master Plan Transportation Component Strategies.
Sure. So Cynthia wanted me to give a brief update on a project that I'm working on currently. And the agenda item is actually a bit misleading. It's actually more than just transportation strategies for the regional master plan. It's actually transportation strategies and performance measures for both the regional master plan and our new iteration of the Metropolitan transportation plan that we're working on currently. So what I've been working on as sort of one of the organizational data geeks is developing some of these performance measures that we can use to track the regional transportation system in the future, as well as sort of some of our organizational goals as we move forward. And I've prepared this sort of 5-page handout here. The first 3 pages of this are focused on really why we're doing performance measures and some sort of the technical aspects of developing those. And then the last 2 pages are focused on the transportation strategies, and similarly, why are we doing those, and what might those actually look like in the future. So I'll briefly go through this right now, and I welcome questions as I talk about it. And one little caveat I will sort of insert here is that I am not a transportation planner by nature. Cynthia knows this, but I am sort of one of the data guys here. So that's why I've started to tackle this, and it's been really interesting for me so far. So let me start going through this. Obviously, why we're doing performance measures. It's part of USDOT's strategic goals. It's part of FHWA's sort of requirements. It's something that we'd like to start doing to track sort of the health of our regional transportation system. Moreover, it gives planners and decision makers sort of the ability to see, how are our decisions actually impacting that system, and are we succeeding as an organization in what we're doing. It's really imperative to continue quantitative evaluation of consequences of decision making as well. It's huge there. Really, transportation performance measures in the past have been focused on sort of infrastructure quality and use. But what we're looking at now is more of a holistic approach to that, and looking at what is the transportation system's impact on the environment, on social equity, on the economic development sort of system in the region, public health and safety, and even a little bit of social justice in there as well. So it's really interesting. And when you see some of these performance measures, you might say, well, this really isn't transportation related, but we actually think that a lot of these things are. And I will say the exhaustive list that I've put together right now is about 160 performance measures, and we're working to whittle that down right now. So there's really a big suite of things that we can do here, but it's all about identifying 40 to 50 that we really think are important to track out into the future. Obviously, the idea being here that we will continue to update these as time moves on. But there's a lot of organizational use for these as well. When we're working on corridor planning, it gives us the ability to sort of measure different corridors against each other, whether it be for their safety, sort of their multimodal connections, really a measurement tool there. It allows us to sort of look at TIP funds and how they're being strategically invested within the region, and we can actually score them based on some of these performance measures. And one of the really important things here is looking at how does a transportation project impact the environment within the region, and that's one thing that we hope these performance measures will allow us to do in the future. One thing that we've been focused on as an organization, and the state has as a whole, is really creating sort of this fuzzy thing called a sustainable transportation system. And what exactly is that right now? And it's one thing that we're not totally clear on, and we're just sort of trying to write the definition. And we hope that actually identifying these performance measures and strategies will help us arrive at some sort of definition or a couple of different pieces of information that help us define that. But I urge you to look at the Transportation Research Board's definition, which is at the bottom here. And I'll read these right now so you can follow along. A sustainable transportation system is one that allows the basic access and development needs of individuals, companies, and society to be met safely and in a manner consistent with the human and ecosystem health, and promotes equity within and between successive generations. It's affordable, it operates fairly and efficiently, it offers a choice of transportation mode and supports a competitive economy as well as balanced regional development. It also limits air, water, and noise emissions, waste and resource use. It limits emissions and waste within the plant's ability to absorb them. Use renewable resources at or below their rates of generation, and use non-renewable resources at or below the rates of development of renewable substitutes, while minimizing the impact of the use of land and generation of noise. So really, this is one definition, but we're looking to write our own through the use of these performance measures. Bottom line here, it's really all about achieving our livability and prosperity goals as a region. And transportation performance measures are a way to get there. So let's get into the mechanics of what will be in these performance measures just a bit here, as well as the timeline. So I'm actually going to skip down to the second piece on page 2 here, the performance measure elements. So there is a performance measure itself. It could be number of parking spaces within regional parking rides. It could be number of riders along boarding on the Amtrak Down East or within the region. Things like that. Let's think about that. The first thing we're looking at is how does the given performance measure line up with the federal planning factors? It's something we're using to sort of guide the development of our Metropolitan Transportation Plan and our transportation component of the Regional Master Plan. So how does a given performance measure line up with the 8 federal planning factors? So we'll actually go through and identify which one of those planning factors that performance measure most aligns with. Same thing with US DOT strategic goals. Which of DOT's strategic, and this is US DOT, which of US DOT's strategic goals does that performance measure most line up with? So we're defining one here. Then, which of SMPO's 7 categories, these are things that we've identified, does the performance measure most line up with? And these are really just sort of sorting tools as we move forward. If we want to say, all right, which performance measures actually define equity within the region? We can easily query an Excel database or an Access database and look at those. Then we have to have a metric ID number. Obviously, everything has to have a unique ID. So when we're having discussions with folks like you, we can say, this is performance measure number 36, or this is performance measure number 100. Hopefully not. But having that in there is key. Then a description of the performance measure. What are we actually measuring? And this is in units. So if it's number of miles, then it will say number of miles. If it's number of riders, it will be number of riders. If it's number of traffic counts, it may be number of traffic counts. It could be percentage of people that are biking to work, things like that. Those are the things that we're tracking. Next, where does the data actually come from? Does it come from DOT? Does it come from data that we collect in the field? That's important to note here. And then, how often do we collect it? Is it on a 1-year cycle? Is it something that we can only update every 5 years? We want to be able to track that as well. Then, when was it last actually updated? So was it updated in 2011, 2013? Was it just updated yesterday? That will be identified here. And the big thing here is the next one, which is data methodology. How is the data actually processed? And this is really important as we sort of do our quality assurance and quality control procedures here. How is this data processed, and is it in a logical manner? We want to be able to track that as well.
Can you give us an example?
Of a methodology?
Yeah.
Sure. So if, let's say, traffic count methodology is a great one. I know one thing we're working on right now is actually putting together a sort of a historic database of traffic counts at different locations. Counts are sort of done every 3 years. So we need to actually write, how do you go into the traffic count database and pull those numbers out? And I mean a click-by-click methodology. So if someone comes in, and we actually have a new employee now that's working on transportation, a GIS analyst, and I have to work really closely with him because a lot of our sort of data processing elements right now aren't clearly delineated, so it's really difficult to come in. It's a steep learning curve. So actually going click by click for the collection or processing of every methodology is really, really important. Similarly, if you're working with GIS data and you want to see, let's say, the RCI index, the road comfort index of a given stretch of road, how do you actually pull that up in GIS? How do you query out the road conditions that you actually want to see? And how do you calculate the sort of lane mileage for that? So things like that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank
Okay.
Matt's already done this, and
Yep.
for our process that we went through creating all the regional master plans on the statewide level, Matt was very much involved with the metrics at the state level, and everybody in the state who worked on that project has gone through this methodology, and we have examples of these out there that you can see.
Yeah, and even more importantly than really bringing someone new in and saying, can you do this? It's about being able to defend the data that you're presenting. And if someone asks, well, you know, what things did you query out here? If you can't immediately answer or at least go check on it, it's really challenging. You might have to reprocess the data. It can be extremely time consuming. So it's all about having this clearly mapped out. And this is sort of, putting these together is actually really a long-term goal that's not immediate, but something we feel like we really need to do. And it makes sense to do it when you're actually calculating the performance measure. You should go side by side. You should be calculating and then recording the methodology. So that's our plan. Then the next one, which is really important, how feasible is this? Already I've identified some performance measures that could be extremely time consuming. We may not even have the data yet, but possibly putting in sort of a placeholder for future data collection efforts. But there are a lot of these that could be challenging. There are also those that we already know, I know off the top of my head right now, and that's really nice. So this is really going to be a high, low, medium system here, but we are going to rank them. Now the really important part, how do we actually measure up? Statewide measure, what is the current statewide measure for this given performance measure? We understand we won't be able to do this for every performance measure, but for as many that we can, we will. Next, how does SMPO measure up as of today? So as of the most recent processing of the performance measure, how do we actually look? So this is going to be a number most likely in this situation. And then what do we want to look like? And this is what this is all about, right? It's how do we want to look in the future, whether it be 10 years down the road, 30 years down the road. What do we actually want that number to be? Let's say we have 1,000 riders on the Amtrak Down Easter. We really want 2,500 riders maybe with more trains, right? That's the goal. So that's where we will actually define that right there. So that's what will be a part of each performance measure that we have. And again, it could be 50, it could be 75. We'll see. Now moving up to the top of the sheet, what's next? Where are we now? So I just started putting these performance measures together 2 weeks ago now, and similarly the transportation strategies that I'll talk about in just a second. We're working on refining those. We're also working on sort of obviously consolidating and limiting where we can. Some of those lower feasibility performance measures will probably be cut, but we hope we can identify them somewhere within the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. After we actually whittle those down, we'll bring them back to our committees, TAC, policy. Both of those committees will have an opportunity to comment, review, and I'll do a presentation, or someone will do a presentation on what these actually are. Then we need to see how do those performance measures line up with the transportation strategies that I'll talk about in just a second, because we are writing transportation strategies for these two plans. Then, how do those performance measures actually line up with the federal plan factors of US DOT's strategic goals? That's something that we're actually going to do after we actually go through and define what performance measures we want to track. Then we'll do that feasibility assessment. Then we'll actually work on processing and calculating these and going through a process of QA/QC, which is sort of just making sure the data is correct. Then doing that methodology, and those numbers 6 and 7 may actually happen alongside each other, as I just said, and we'll also QA/QC the methodology, so there are several steps to this. Then we're hoping that we can create a document that is a comprehensive methodology document for all of the performance measures. How are they all calculated with, let's say, 1 page per performance measure. Then integrating those performance measures into the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Regional Transportation Plan, or Regional Master Plan Transportation component. And there's some understanding here that some of this may be iterative in a sense. We may have to go through several iterations of calculating the performance measure or actually reviewing the performance measures and refining them. After those go to our committees and they have a review of those. So those are performance measures, and I can take questions now. I know I just went really quickly through a lot. If not, I'll move on to the transportation strategies.
I just have one.
Yeah.
So think of, in particular, the U.S. DOT's strategic goals. So if you were building something and constructing, and you know how you put up the support, the temporary support that's there for your actual building. So I'm looking at the strategic goals for U.S. DOT as something that's helping us get our house straight and level while we're in the process, and then those will fall away and our local regional goals will move to the forefront. The planning factors stay in place because that's part of the authorization legislation. It's part of MAP 21 and safety route before that, ICE-T, etc. So some parts of this will stay the whole duration and will move forward or backwards in the process, you know, as they gain prominence as we move through the process. Some will fall away because their role is just to help guide us and make sure that we're on the right track and things are level and built straight. So
a couple things. To what extent is the New Hampshire DOT's balanced scorecard being incorporated?
A lot. And it's not really a good answer, but so I've worked at the balanced scorecard before through the effort that Cynthia was just mentioning on another project, and all of those measures are incorporated within the performance measures that I've already defined. And I forget how many pieces there actually are, but I've reviewed that and included that. You know, things like pavement condition I know is part of the balanced scorecard, number of 40 mile an hour plus rail lines, that sort of thing, they've all been incorporated. That was actually one of my starting points when I went into this. I said, hey, what's out there? What does the NHDOT want? That's part of that.
Have you talked at all with Rebecca at Transport New Hampshire?
No, I haven't.
So one of the things that happened this winter was Transport New Hampshire gathered a group of folks from across the state to discuss policy, and balanced scorecard was a big piece of that at DOT, and helping guide DOT to improve that. There were a lot of really strong suggestions for how to improve the balanced scorecard that came out of that, and particularly in areas where the balanced scorecard is not what I would call flushed out, alternative modes. And so that might be a great resource for you.
What's her last name?
Rebecca Harris. Thank you.
Wow. Okay.
And then the last thing on the performance measure elements, some of the fields that automatically leapt to mind that might need to be added. So you have a statewide measure to the extent that it might differ from the MPO target. Is the state target important to include?
I think it is. My concern there, my concern there is how do we actually go about arriving at that number?
we're supposed to agree.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of an area where I might think that could be challenging is if there's a metric out there, I'm thinking GIS metrics especially, or measures rather, that the state hasn't yet looked at, I would hate to put them in the position where they have to calculate the metric simply to line up with what we're doing. Is that clear there?
Okay.
Yeah, but I think in as many areas as possible, I think it would be helpful to sort of assign a statewide target.
Yeah, well, this is great. The legislation calls for MPOs to develop their performance targets and measures kind of after 180 days after the state establishes theirs on the MAP 21. And the legislation's focus is really on a couple areas: safety, congestion, pavement condition, bridge condition. It's also very focused on the national highway system. So you'll see eventually that the DOT, maybe through the balanced scorecard, will have to address those requirements and will establish statewide measures and targets. And then the MPOs will develop their regional targets and measures to complement what those statewide measures are. So there has to be, and the law does say that there has to be coordination and cooperation in establishing the MPO level measures and targets consistent with what the state is doing to establish theirs. So you're going obviously well beyond some of the legislative areas where we would require measures to be incorporated, things that I mentioned, which is great. We've got a lot of stuff here. It's very, very ambitious.
But what we found out during the statewide process that Matt was in is that there's areas of the state that don't have as many metrics out there. The work hasn't been done, the data hasn't been collected. And over in the seacoast, because of UNH and because of the proximity of the ocean and coastal resources that are available, we have a lot more information than other parts of the state. And the environment, when we did our ranking with decision was, we were the highest area in the state for valuing and weighting the environment. So our ability to use those environmental factors is really important for the constituency who lives in this region.
I think we're very blessed because of the amazing amount of data collection that we've done over the last 5 years during the summers, culverts, traffic counts, all these different things, access management study. I mean, it's been great. So we're really lucky, and I've been able to write so many performance measures because of that. And I think you're getting at the fact that some of the rest of the state hasn't been as fortunate with their data collection. So
and that's going to limit what DOT can do, which is what happened to us on a statewide level. We had to go down to where there was access, everyone had it.
Yeah, some of the data that I'm sure the state will use will be the HPMS data, for example, data sets where there's a lot of data and they've already been collecting that information, some of their safety databases and that sort of thing. I think it'll be easier for them to establish statewide measures with the data they already have available, but what you guys have available regionally can just add on to it.
Thank you. So, out of Strafford Regional Planning Commission experience, you have protocols for assessment and action, which would be standard template-driven access and retrieval. And it would allow for weighted assessment and the expansion by added criteria to become a statewide model. Yes?
Could you ask the question again? Sorry.
You have protocols for assessment and action, which will be standard template driven for access and retrieval, expansive with capacity and new titles, and it could become the basis of a statewide model.
I would hesitate to say that that is the case. I think, yeah, exactly. That last piece is really the key there. Yes to everything else, but I think that saying that this could be a statewide model, I'd like to say that we're going above and beyond in a lot of areas here, and I think it could be challenging to say that this would be a statewide model. This is really above and beyond.
Yeah, the law says we have to agree.
Yeah. It's very
right.
Yeah.
We're going to be cooperative in our continuous process.
I had one other thing on the element fields.
Yes.
I also thought since some of the data sources would be, coast would be a data source.
Yep.
Is it important to know what the source's measure is and what the source's target is?
Yeah, coast is an interesting example too. Yeah, I think that could be important. Where applicable, I think it would be worth including. Yeah, sure.
Yes, Ned?
Hey, Matt. Under performance measure samples, you have several things here I have questions about. You have
Yeah.
passenger miles traveled per vehicle, revenue mile, and the other VMTs. How are you going to
Collect?
collect them?
We're not sure. We're not sure. So this, again, this is sort of the Christmas list, right? This is what we'd like to have. A lot of these won't make the cut, and I think the one you just mentioned is one that might not.
Well, there's several. There's vehicles per household, VMT per capita, VMT per employee,
Yep.
light duty.
Our transportation model, and Cynthia, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. Our transportation model does give us the ability to estimate some of these measures, and we haven't worked with that the last year, but we'll likely be working with it in the next calendar year. So I think the ability is there for us to look at that.
Just by modeling.
By modeling, yeah. Yep. So that might be one of the measures where we don't have an existing condition possibly, but we do have a target. And I think there will be several like that where we don't have the ability to collect the data quite yet, and we don't have a measure, but in the future, we'd like to see this. Good.
My last question would be, can you explain what a community implementing local option fee for transportation is? I never heard of a local option fee for transportation.
There's a state law that allows a community to implement up to a $5 per vehicle registration surcharge. And it has to go toward transportation projects within your community. So it can become, say, your local match pool for, say, a tap project that was being discussed earlier, or it can go towards public transit. It can, and the community has a lot of latitude to define and restrict how those funds might be used. For example, in Exeter, they have this fee and fund that they've set up, but it's targeted for primarily toward elderly and disabled services and supporting those services. So it's not, it's not wide open to any sort of transportation project. Repaving in a community would not be eligible in that instance. But it's used in a number of communities in southeast New Hampshire.
We use it in Dover, that's what we pay most.
Yeah.
Right.
And we do traffic calming out of it.
Do we do trails, some of the community trails in New Fund from that?
Yeah.
In Newmarket, we've done some downtown parking.
And sidewalks.
And sidewalks, yes.
Was that voted in by a warrant article allowing you to charge them that, or how
It's
did
a
that?
state RSA that was passed 15 years ago, maybe more. I don't remember the RSA number, but then communities can adopt it or not. So
Local.
Yeah, you would have to do a,
Yeah, I would
you
think
would
so.
do a vote at town meeting on that.
Thank you.
When you register your vehicle, it's in that cost.
And it doesn't have to be 5, it can be less than 5, and communities have done that. So,
There's a similar fee, the registration fee, exactly the same setup, where the money is used to recycle automotive waste, oil, batteries, tires. It's the exact same process, and it does include a warrant article. It has to be approved by the town.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll continue on to the transportation strategies. These will be strategies that are in both the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Regional Master Plan. Again, the strategies in both of those may be a bit different just because of sort of the audience of those. But the idea is to make specific recommendations related to sort of the goals of SMPO and SRPC and transportation planning goals. So similarly with performance measures, these are sort of, the transportation strategy elements are sort of the fields that will be within each transportation strategy. Each will be assigned a priority by staff and by, I'm not really sure how we'll actually vet this yet, but that priority rating will be assigned based on need, impact, feasibility, and terms. So some of the elements of the performance measure fields are actually integrated into this one field that is called priority rating. That will be a high, medium, and low system. It could possibly be in even a numeric system in the future, but we're not quite there yet. What is the strategy itself? So you can see a little sample on the next page, actually, if you'd like to see some strategies that I had written down. What stakeholder level does this occur at? And this is really an interesting one, but this is who will the strategy impact? Does it have a local impact? Does it have a regional transportation impact? Or is it really a statewide strategy? And that's one that we're including here. Functional areas, this is really looking at sort of the holistic transportation planning aspect. And that is, how does this strategy impact other areas like land use, housing, the environment, climate change, equity and engagement, economic development. And what we'll actually do here is just sort of put a check mark next to the other areas that a given transportation strategy does impact. And that will most likely be performed by staff and sort of reviewed by the committees. Then, federal planning factor, which of the planning factors is this most applied to, which of the US DOT strategic goals does it most apply to, and which of SMPO's categories does it most apply to. And again, those are those sorting fields that will be within the strategy. One other thing that we're talking about doing, and this sort of gets into the where are we now, is identifying which performance measures actually allow the tracking of that strategy. So identifying which of the performance measures that I just went through allow the tracking of the transportation strategy within a given row. So we'll actually be identifying that. So, you know, improving hazard mitigation data collection might be the strategy, and the performance measures might be how many culverts we actually collect data for, how many communities we've collected data within, how many are actually done through the AOP measuring system. Those are the sort of connections that we want to identify. Obviously, we're working to refine some of the transportation strategies. We're a little bit more behind with the transportation strategies than we are on the performance measures, but this is going to sound terrible, but I actually have about 210 strategies written down right now. I expect that to get much smaller. Maybe 25% of those will actually make the cut. I hope to consolidate some of them as well. But this is a sample right here. And the process is really much like the performance measures. It'll go through the committees. It'll actually be refined by staff, and then it'll be integrated into the regional master plan and metropolitan transportation plan after several rounds of review. But that's really where we're at right now with the transportation strategies.
Can you explain how we've already done this in broadband? And
yeah. So, and again, not a transportation guy, but I've written strategies like this many, many times in other plans, so it seemed logical for me to start working on this. The other part of this is that the fields that I identified within these boxes on this page, these are actually fields that came out of our regional master plan, which I've been working on for the last 3 years. So this just seemed logical to me, and I'm very familiar with actually using these fields right here. So that's why it seemed to make sense to me. So lots of work to do.
Me as well. I support this effort.
Yeah. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Number 6, project updates.
Well, you heard that people who are going to be applying for the TAP funds need to get their letters in, and then sometime after, so late in the fall, October, November, the review of these will be, those applications from our region would be coming back to the TIP and to the policy committee for our input and review of them and decision to move forward to DOT and the TAP committee at the statewide level. And then sometime by August 12th, I think, is the next interagencies. I don't know if you, maybe Lee, you know more definitively. We're waiting to get the new draft information for the TIP so we can prepare the new TIP with the new information from the 10-year plan that was passed by the legislature. So DOT told us sometime between August 1st and August 12th, the interagency, we should be getting that information. So that will be coming forward. So probably we'll be working on the TIP first, continuing to work on the strategies and performance measures, then working hopefully on a CMAQ application sometime. We'll be coming through and we'll be scoring that. And what am I missing? The TAP. So that seems to be the agenda. the tip, the tap, the CMAC, and the strategies. So we're going to be having a tip-tapping fun.
Anything new from Somersworth? I see lots of stuff in the papers about council members don't want to go downtown because it's all torn up.
No comment. I'll tell you about Somersworth, not about that, but read the paper. The TV project's out to bid today. We'll advertise in the Union Leader on Sunday. We're getting bids back on August 22nd. So expect to start and finish construction this fall. Another update I have is the mayor organized, city council organized a rail advisory committee. It's several months old now, have several meetings, but kind of their mission is to reestablish passenger rail service to Somersworth. And I wrote an RFP a couple weeks ago, and it's getting internally reviewed. It should be issued soon to get proposals back for a feasibility study that kind of looks at all the challenges, opportunities, rail ownership, because New Hampshire North Coast owns the Somersworth line, but then it goes down to Pan Am line with the Downeaster on, and kind of identify all those issues and challenges and a way to move forward. So we'll be issuing that RFP, I think, within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. What else? Yes,
I have a report. Since our last meeting, we've made some progress in Newmarket, which we're very pleased. We had a very successful meeting with our friends at the State DOT at the beginning of July, and we were able to work through some of the issues that I had identified that we were struggling with. And as a result of that meeting, we've been able to move forward with the design, and our engineer is submitting the preliminary design today. August 1st, we met our deadline. So I think we're looking a little bit more positive with respect to the project. We've actually been able to expand our study area a little bit to include up to Exeter Road to do some safety improvements in that area. We're going to be extending some of our bump outs that are currently there so they're more effective. And we're also going to be doing some traffic calming in front of the Newmarket Library. One of the greatest triumphs was we were able to get Division 6 to agree to allow us to have textured pavers in the downtown, similar to what we have currently in front of Manston. So we were very pleased with their support, and we view that as a major victory. So we're really excited and looking forward to the project coming to the next stage and hopefully to fruition. We also had a very productive meeting early in July on the other project that Newmarket's doing, the light way shoulder widening on the southern part of town, from 108 to the Wakefield town line. We now have our new engineers under contract, and that project is moving forward as well. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anyone else? Project yes?
Just a couple of quick UNH projects. We have all three of our FTA bus livable communities projects underway. Rail station study, covered bike racks, and Main Street West bus pullouts. They're all in, one's a planning study that's underway, the other two are construction projects that are starting in the next 10 days. So hopefully we'll get those all done by fall. Just on the downtown side, Durham's been doing a lot of traffic calming, kind of pilot, testing some changes in downtown streets, fine-tuning, tweaking that. We'll see how that goes through the fall. But we are continuing to develop and identify strategies because the downtown is developing very rapidly. Lots of new projects going in downtown Durham, and we want to adjust the transportation system to deal with that.
Thank you.
We kicked off the Silver Street reconstruction project in Dover. It's a complete street project. Kind of funny when I think about it. 4 or 5 years ago, it was just going to be a water main replacement, and now it's soup to nuts. It went from a $400,000 project to a $6 million project. So it's a reducing of the lane widths, sidewalks, street trees, putting about 100 street trees, street lighting, fossil pull-offs. Really going to be a great, and we're still replacing the water line. So it's still a great project. We're doing a couple months the end of this year to do the outer portion, and then the bulk of the work will be next spring. We'll start August 15th. We hope to start the work on the parking garage, police station, on the Rochester Street parking lot downtown. We're going to do August, September, and October, do some of the site work, and then take the holidays off so we don't disrupt too much holiday shopping downtown. Start up in January. We hope the garage will open in October, and the police station will open in January. And then just had a brain cramp on the third project open. Mark had mentioned the community trail earlier. We finished a portion under the Spalding Turnpike, so now you can start downtown and get the 4 miles out to Watson Road fairly consistently. A little blip, but people can work around that.
Good.
That was a majority TV, but then we used the tip line that Brad was talking about earlier.
It's been like a 10-year project, right, Chris?
At the very least, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one that goes along with the Chico.
Yeah, yeah.
Rail to trail.
It was like public, private, tip.
Yeah.
Well, it was a little.
And really,
tips and all kinds of
the
stuff.
remaining part we can't do is privately owned. The landowner says, oh yeah, I'll give you the easement at some point.
Is that by the 4th Street?
No, down east is fairly interested. It's Chad.
Oh, the other portion to go to, up to Burger King. He's still holding that.
Brad?
We continue to see really strong ridership on our commuter express services, particularly to the shipyard. We are working with, and have been working with the shipyard for the last 3 months or so on actually accessing the shipyard with our buses in the afternoons. One of the challenges that the shipyarders have is they get released and have to, some of them have to sprint out to gate 1 to catch the bus. So with the extremely strong support of the commander, we've broken down that barrier, and will hopefully next week or two begin service from inside the shipyard in the afternoon, which hopefully will increase the attractiveness of the service and the visibility of the service for folks, and provide another bump in ridership for us.
Can I just make one comment on that? Only because my son works at the shipyard. I think some of the people don't ride it because I know in the Dover area, by the time they go to wherever the drop-off point is, it's easier for them just to go to the shipyard. So I'm not quite sure where your bus stops are, but that was his comment to me, where he lives in that south end of town. It would take him longer to go and pick up the bus than it would be for him to just drive to the shipyard. Just something to think about.
Yeah, Dover's not necessarily an easy city to service because it's, no, it isn't. There's broad parts of the city that, you know, from that perspective, no, it might be easier. What I will say is that for many shipyarders, they can avoid the cost of commuting by taking our bus because it's a benefit that they receive, so they don't actually have to pay anything to use it. And a lot of them don't actually still know that. So there's some internal communications on the shipyard that have nothing to do with us, that we can't control very much, but we're working on it. The other thing is yesterday, we've been going back and forth with DOT on the Rochester parking ride, which is not yet officially open, and got the okay yesterday through the commissioner's office to actually start using that. We'll probably have 25 cars or so that would begin using that on a daily basis. And that's where our Route 103 service would be coming out of, as well as we'd shift Route 20 over to that park and ride lot as well. And provide an opportunity for some cars to be there for the grand opening. So you guys might want to.
When is the grand opening?
No word on that. I don't know.
I think I thought September 1st or whatnot, our Rochester Wildcat Transit Group will start using the park and ride. I don't know before that date or not, but I'll find out.
Yeah,
So that'll become our northern terminus. We will still continue to serve our previous northern terminus over at the Home Depot in Rochester. So we're kind of adding a little leg onto our main service.
Yes.
I just remembered New Hampshire DOT is having a public meeting on the Sullivan Bridge at Dover City Hall on August 6th at 7 p.m. So if you're interested in progress being made on the Sullivan Bridge and the Dover side of the bridge, please attend the meeting so your concerns and questions can be addressed.
All right, any other project updates?
I just want to mention a very important one. It's a DOT project, but we're finally, DOT's been doing great work on the 108 Durham to Newmarket reconstruction improvement, and phase 1 of that is starting. Will be a multi-year project, but to reconstruct the road, put in the bike lanes. So we're really happy to see that inching closer to completion, and it's very much needed.
Durham Oak people
Happy. I don't know if happy is the right
okay,
word.
have they, I heard rumor they were going to file a lawsuit against the state.
I don't know where that's.
So it's progressing, proceeding as planned.
It's been a challenge.
Yes,
So construction is starting? I was just going to
think-
send something to Ron.
I don't know the exact schedule, but I think it's
Okay.
imminent and not starting.
Okay, great.
All right, no other project updates. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Something that pertains to us, but we haven't talked about yet. Yes.
Have you replaced Mark Ambrosi, Cynthia?
No, we
You're
haven't.
still working on that?
Yep.
Just curious what the status is. I know he's irreplaceable.
Yep.
All right, last item is citizens forum. Chance to speak on subject matter even if you don't belong to the committee. Anyone? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Bill? Okay, is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Thank you.